Hey chat. Hello everyone. Hope you are having a really good time with the music. I'll remind you that now we have an official playlist and I want to start by saying thanks to that. That you suggested such a great idea of making this playlist. I'm going to be adding more and more music there. With every new stream, we're gonna see if we can add some more music with new artists, whatever I can find with to introduce you both to Ukrainian songs and to find some kind of English translation. Really nice seeing you all here. We are over, if I'm not wrong, over 500. Yes, we are 550 people right now. We're just getting started. We'll see how well this go. There are some topics to discuss, but to be honest, right now the biggest things are happening in Munich. Obviously, the Munich Security Conference. We hear some really good news. I've yet to hear all of the speakers of that conference and really kind of make sense of it, like what's actually been said and not whatnot. We can clearly say that the decisions have been taken at Ramstein. Now Munich is just being used essentially by individual parties to state their future, kind of say, plans. Killendan, thanks so much. Wow, $100. That's a lot. That's a lot. But thanks. I appreciate it. Really, really appreciate it. A lot of people actually donated. Tim, you're a legend. I'm really rooting for you that you're gonna make an impact in Ukraine. Slava Ukraini, Max Palm, Героям Slava. I've heard Starsky is somewhere in the chat. Gord, thank you so much for the drone, Gord, for actually sending that. That's really, really impactful. Captain, hello, Slava Ukraini for sure, for sure. So some good news. We're gonna start with the hello from Serbia. Oof, never thought that people from Serbia would listen to me. I usually shit on countries that don't follow the Western world order, and usually even if people support Ukraine, they don't support me just because I have a big mouth and just speak about. But it's very nice to see someone from Serbia, Mandrak. I really, really appreciate you joining up here personally, with all my big mouth and everything. Elj, ELGD. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing LD. Thanks for $12, 12 euros. I'm sorry. Yes, so we had a really good talk with Ali about what we can do for channel. It's amazing what we did. I want to start obviously, but just by saying that you guys are amazing. Like we were able to first do the Razan Foundation. That's amazing. Over 12,000. Now we did, I believe it's around 5,000, if a little bit more, for guys at the. I called them the flashpoint in the video. Oh my god, that was so dumb. Oh my god. So yeah, so Max and Pasha, they are really happy that they were able to get some drones, and basically we're talking about the playlist. I will link the playlist in chat in a second, but people were very happy, and actually I got messages like how do I donate more, like will you do something, will you put some kind of pictures and whatnot. We're talking about it, right? It's a starting of communication with Ellie. We're going to be looking into how do we can set up, and maybe we can set up something that we do on our own, not just the foundations. I don't think it's extremely necessary, but it might be quite interesting to at least, get some kind of feedback that what you do matters. That's probably the biggest problem always with a lot of these big charity foundations, and both, like especially Ali, she has a lot of actual connections on the ground. My connections on the ground are mostly non-public people that don't really have media. Many of them don't speak even English. So it's like this. My biggest English speaking connection on the ground in Ukraine is Starsky, to be honest. Uh, yes. Yeah, I've read that flashback. I posted the message. Big thanks to them. But to be honest, like I don't think that they should be thanking. Like I think us helping them should be just obvious. It's me who needs to be thanking them, and I think just because the Ukrainians, they're humble, right? They just acknowledge that. But to be honest, like, it's them putting their lives on the line. It's not me sitting here in Denmark in this nice IKEA chair and trying to be smartass about some stuff. I'm just a guy on the internet, and they're the guys that are standing in front lines every day, defending us from mortar shells firing at us. Well, maybe not mortar shells, but at least long-range missiles. If something that this war has shown is that it doesn't matter if Russia is weak, is going to get destroyed, but it still can do damage, you know? And it's like, as much as we know that Russia is going to be defeated if they even try to attack NATO, why would we risk it and make sure that, like, even they do any kind of damage to us in Europe? And I just think that them thinking is almost nonsense. Not that I appreciate it. I do. Yes. Sandy Jane, how can I help Ukraine without sending money? I'm just a teenager using my mom's account, so I don't have the money. Don't worry about the money. Like, seriously, money is not the most important. The most important things that you can do personally, first is spread information on your social media. So it's actually staggering just how much the people that just, you know, like, want to go against Ukraine, they're extremely active on those social media. And people that support Ukraine, they say like, oh, this is the right thing to do, so I'm not going to share a lot of things. So share information about conflict in Ukraine in social media. Explain, like, explanations from people, why does this matter? So something like Stoltenberg and so on, that explains why this is really relevant for us. And secondly, what you can do is you can write to your local politician. Politicians, just by the nature of democracy, are listening to their constituents. So, and kind of, you start with your local politician and then it goes up the chain. So if the local politician gets a lot of requests from people in their own area saying, it's like, well, Ukraine really matters, we should try to do something, that's when there's some kind of impact starts. And it's the only thing that it takes is opening an email account, finding out who your local politician are, and writing an email. That's it. And it's actually making quite a significant impact. Eish Saurid, thank you, Georgie. Все буде Україна. Я впевнений за це. I am completely certain of that. Yes. So basically what I'm saying is that me and Ali, we're right now thinking about the social community. We're trying to set up either Discord or something. So somewhere where, first and foremost, it's going to allow us, for example, interact with me a lot more on constant basis. You go on like some kind of chat where you can just tag me, share some news for me to comment, like in a chat form, though I'm not promising that I will be having a lot of time to do that. But also what we're discussing is that we might have a more structured, schedule for when I'm doing video streams and whatnot. So then you can plan out and propose maybe times and we can figure out what we want to do. And that will just be a nice place to kind of store it for everyone else to see, because YouTube, to be honest, not the best, completely not made to host any kind of significant community, as stupid as it sounds. You would think that community and YouTubers is kind of one and the same, and then the community features of YouTube are lacking. Anyway, let's get to some kind of a discussion about Ukraine, because our channel discussion can wait. Jesper, thank you so much for 90 kroners. Portugal is great. Thanks for the help. No worries, Sandy. It's literally that simple. Democracies are depending on the people, and the people movements can impact a lot of democracies. So being proactive in democracy is actually making an impact. This was a mistake that I did in my life, because I thought that whatever I do never really mattered. And I've never participated in politics. And only later on I understood that's like, well, no, it's actually like in democracies, that kind of is the point. If you participate, that's when you get some kind of things to change, or at least put some kind of impact, or at least get certain things heard. And that's the only thing that we want about the war in Ukraine. The worst thing that can happen is that Ukrainian war will go into the second page articles and news cycles. That would be the most terrible things. Maybe get Dennis, Arthur, and Jake on your channel. They can spend the word to more subscribers. Kellen, we discussed. I just don't have the time. My problem is that I have a pretty okay career as a person, right? But obviously, it's a non-public career. As I said, I'm a nerd. I'm a data guy. I'm not really. Haven't had any public exposure beforehand, and I'm working in my corporate job. So, and I'm very happy with my corporate job. Gotta be honest. I really like what I do, but this also comes to me that I literally have almost no time. Whatever I'm doing with YouTube right now is already pushing a lot of my free time and sleeping time and whatnot. Pekka, there is a lot more of us in Serbia who support Ukraine than people think. By the way, you are right for shitting on Serbia. I don't I don't shit on Serbia completely. Like, to be honest, I don't really shit that much on Serbia. Mostly because their position is clear. Like, the position of Serbia is quite open. To be honest, I've been more surprised that Serbia is not more active in supporting Russia. And like in some places, Serbia is doing less than what Hungary is doing. So to be honest, my shitting on Serbia has been very limited just because the expectations were low to begin with. I would just want Serbia to be a very nice, civilized Southern European country. Because I've been to Balkans, I know it's complicated to say the least. And I would love Serbia to essentially join the EU and we start a proper kind of, living together relationships. But so far, what's been like is a lot of conflicts, like talks about Bosnian war again, conflicts around Kosovo and whatnot. It's, this is what creates a bad atmosphere around this region. And countries like Croatia, Slovenia, they were able to shed some of it. Whereas some other countries like Bosnia and Herzegovina, Bulgaria to an extent, are struggling with a lot of that problem with there's some internal conflicts. Macedonia as well. Well, Macedonia mostly with Greece though. North Macedonia, sorry. Hey buddy, make some Ukrainian Matters t-shirts for sale to help Ukraine. I am already looking into it. So far, what we found was kind of shit. So we're looking for something that would be really cool. I want to make t-shirts, but I want them to be nice. Lars Sørensen, tack for 20 kronos. Appreciate it. David Sharpie, it's good to go direct fundings to cut the admin fees of larger charities. Keep up the good work. Yeah, we've discussed my biggest gripe with a lot of charities. For example, in Denmark, the biggest charity to support Denmark was funded by Red Cross. And Ukrainians actually did an investigation on Red Cross, and they couldn't even find what exactly was Red Cross doing in Ukraine. The activities were so out of scale compared to how much Red Cross got in donations in different countries. It was completely insane. Also, reminder, guys, if you're asking a question to me, please add @Ukraine Matters, because then the message gets highlighted and then I can read and understand that was to me. So, I've seen 2 videos of people who are neutral saying that Ukraine is lacking munitions. Firstly, there is no thing that people are neutral. There are no neutral people. Whoever says that they're neutral, wars are black and white. That's the unfortunate part of the truth. Well, maybe not all wars, but the existential wars, like genocidal type wars that we're experiencing right now in Ukraine, is a complete black and white. More importantly, this is a complete and probably one of the most clearest cases of an aggressive war against a country that didn't do anything. So even taking off the bias of Ukraine is democratic whereas Russia is authoritarian, no, it's a one-sided aggressive conflict. So there is definitely a party that's been attacked for no reason, and there's the definite attacker. So in that situation, whoever says they're neutral is just full of shit. So there is no neutral side in this war. Secondly, is Ukraine lacking munitions? Yes, to an extent. That's something that I said in my last video. And also, additional comment to the last video, people for some reason misunderstood what I was saying. I was saying that we are seeing definite signs of Russia struggling to keep up with their war strategies, war operation and tactics that they use. Ukraine, on the other hand, is increasing their capabilities in artillery. So right now, the dynamic shows that Russia potentially can lose the edge of their artillery advantage, and Ukraine can take over. And at that moment, it's just going to be one-way loss on the tactical level for the Russians. That was the message. But some people understood that's like Russia is already losing, Ukraine already has like all the weapons in the world, and they are completely dominating Russians. That's not the case. That's not what I said. Ukraine is struggling with ammunition as well, and that's where the large problems are coming in. But the Western allies are doing a lot of good stuff to increase the production. Just I think yesterday I heard that US has made some additional contract to increase weapons productions like 500%. I think there was a factory or a producer that made a 155 millimeter shell. I believe either the bullet itself, the shell itself, or the powders for it. So one of the other type. And they said they will increase from 15,000 to, I believe, 75 or 90,000. So there are a lot of things that are happening to make sure that Ukraine will get a steady flow of the ammunition in the coming future. Yes, okay. Decula03, thanks for 10 gifted subs. Really appreciate it. Really, really appreciate it. Leonard B, thanks for Swedish Kronos, 40 pieces, very nice. Tonushi, Kunya Ukrainle, Kunya Sankareile. I would guess this is Finnish. I don't read Finnish, so sorry. But big thanks for €5. Appreciate it. All right, can you, Pepito, can you give us an opinion why Reznikov remained Minister of Defense? This is funny because on one side, like there was first people that said like, well, can you give us opinion why Reznikov has been fired as a Minister of Defense? And now it's like, can you give us opinion why Reznikov has stayed as a Minister of Defense? He stayed because he's effective and efficient. Because he gets shit done. He's a very likable guy. He's very optimistic. I've listened to many of his interviews, and he is a person that's like that is able to essentially bring optimism to a lot of the table. Very, very, how do you say, very charismatic person. Not like me. But yeah, Reznikov, and besides, he's working really great. So it was a decision by Zelensky to leave Reznikov at the position. So that's it. He's an effective minister that was essentially overshadowed by some of the things that were happening with the corruption fighting in Ukraine. And that impacted Reznikov, and people thought that he should go, but Zelensky said, no, you stay. So that's it. Greetings from your Texas, Tavarish. I'm not Tavarish. So let's drop the Soviet things here. I think Ukraine and all the other countries said that the Soviet, the Eastern Europe does not share the Soviet romance. Like when you, like, you know, in the Western part, like you call people like comrade or Tavarish, or is like, and so on, and it's like it's considered like a joke, a very funny one, because like it's a very interesting things for a lot of Eastern Europeans. That's like, yeah, why would you do that? That's not cool. That's not cool. So let's drop it. But thanks again for being here from Texas. I appreciate it. It's like the same as like learning that it's Kyiv, not Kiev. You know, it's the same kind of level. It's a small thing, but it matters. Like Ukraine. Jose Pisa, Labdien, what do you think about the big truck convoy that sits behind Melitopol and Mariupol? Do you think Ukraine has the capacity to hit it with some drones? As far as I'm aware, that was the convoy of grain. So I'm not completely sure to hit it for a specific reason. Maybe it was convoy with something else, but I've seen the pictures and videos. It's a convoy, a civilian transport. Well, not civilian, but like they don't have any ammunition with them. So it's not like a military transport. And the best guess that was the grain that they were transporting. So I'm not completely sure if that is necessary. But if GLSDB will come, yes, sure. Start the Zelensky clothing line, probably. Once I get to talk to Zelensky, I'm gonna ask him, Vova, it's time to go, time to make some clothing. Yeah, and he will be looking at me and like, what are you talking about? Like, it's war happening. Are you an idiot? Like, get him out. I mean, more neutral than others. Again, there are no neutral people. There are no more neutral, less neutral. It's like there are no neutral people in this war. Vlad Drak, any clue if the rumors that FSB uncovered a plot for a coup has any grounds? A plot for a coup? FSB. If it's a coup on Putin, I don't care, to be honest. Like, maybe there is, maybe there is not. I don't care. Until Putin is alive, I don't care. Let's see. Florian, yeah, Gaia? I don't know how to pronounce this. Greetings from German Baltic Sea. You are doing a great job. Keep it up. No, you're doing a great job. Keep it up yourself. No, big thanks for 10 euros. Okay. Stefan Sell, do you see the potential for Ukrainian army having successful summer offensive after Russia failed its muddy February offensive again? Russian failure is repeated, right? Yes. It's clear that Ukraine prepares for the scenario when Russia mobilizes, right? Ukraine is seeing that they will not be able to hit Russia right now. The winter offensive, the dynamics right now is on the Russian side, so they're the attacking force, and it is fine with Ukrainians. And Ukrainians are now preparing essentially to fight the situation. If the Russian force will not attack, they will put themselves in a defensive position, and then they will get additionally reinforced with a certain number of mobilized troops from the Russia proper. Because it is expected that Putin will essentially start a new wave of mobilization. He should have started in January, but for some reason, it's unclear. But it is expected because without mobilization, Russia is achieving nothing. Nothing. So they will mobilize. Louis Husmith, I'm proud of all the YouTubers that drive the engines for supporting and fundraising Ukraine, as well as the generous people giving the time and money. Yeah, mostly it's the people. Like, you know, YouTubers are like, what I said, okay, maybe there are professional YouTubers, you know, for whom is a career, and like Artur Rehi, like he wanted to be a YouTuber from the start, like, so for him it's like, you know, passion, his interesting journey. And then there's guys like me, who is just a guy that has some spare time, maybe way too much spare time. and then I do some videos where I explain things about how bad Russia is. And then Russia surprises me and by being even worse than I was even expecting. So, Super Console Gamer. First few nights I watched Kiev on livestream cams, gunfire, then 6 a.m. quiet. Church bells rang, dark became light, and the crowds were crawling. The crowds of Kiev feast on the Russians. Yeah, fair enough. Robert H., what do you think about the phone call that is released with Putin by GIT as a part of an investigation of MH17? Well, the call itself didn't contain any damning evidence. And I mean, like, does this come to you as surprise as Putin knew about this? I mean, what else? Like, did you know that the water is wet? Also, don't eat yellow snow. You know, it's kind of the same level. It's like it's the most obvious thing, but because the West and Western media, we are believing this image of Russia as this unmovable fortress, the dominant power that can crush anyone, and says like, oh yeah, but we cannot like get Putin to be responsible for this, and we shouldn't do anything to prosecute this awful crime against humanity, and we cannot call this a crime at all. We cannot call that it's Putin responsible at all. And it's like, I mean, it's just in a mentality. It's the loser's mentality in Europe that I've been talking about so much. And we need to overcome this loser's mentality. This war and this whole situation is a big challenge for us in Europe. The most important part, like, you know, Ukraine is resisting. They made things clear. Their head right now is on right level. Their head needs to be then worried after this war is over. That's when they like, how do we rebuild? You know, stuff like that. But us right now in Europe, we need to start thinking in our heads is like, can we still consider like when a country is like, violating human rights, killing people, killing citizens of our European countries, do we just let them go just because, it's like, I don't know, he's a short guy that has a lot of nukes, therefore we're still gonna go business with him? That's the question for us, not for Putin. Like, he's an asshole. Like, I hope he goes to hell quite fast, as fast as possible, by using elevator from the company Motorola. Any news about Starlink? Yeah, I've heard that it works. That's what I heard. I've heard that there is so far no issues on the front lines with Starlink, so it works for now. Maybe something will happen, but what I've heard that it works. And Erasmus, thanks for 100 Kronos. Level 70, hi. Hi, Georgie. Did you hear about the Russian pilot to start a coup, plot to start a coup in Moldova? Could you see Ukraine going to Transnistria in order to help the Moldovan government? Ukraine has officially stated that if Moldova requests Ukraine to take care of Transnistria, they will. It's been already clearly stated. I think Moldova needs to be proactive. I think Moldovan government needs to really put more emphasis in working together with either Romania or other NATO allies to secure their independence. Otherwise, it might be exploited by the Russian pro-Russian sellouts. So. But it's an independent country. They can do whatever they want, So until they... Yeah. Tavarish is a joke too, but it's a sour joke. Yeah, I understand that it was a joke. Don't worry about it. It's just something to be aware of, that not everything will be understood as a joke. Yes, that was the plane stuff. Heinrich Barty, how awesome was the recent moment when Zelensky got Heroyam Slava response, I think in the EU? Yeah, he almost cried. Well, I mean, like, I almost cried myself. But then again, like, sometimes I just cry for no reason. So, I mean, like, every time, sometimes it just rolls on me, the war situation in Ukraine, when I see, like, there was this video that was spread on Twitter, and I was crying like a bitch. It was like some soldiers, like, asking, like, local kids in Donbas, as like, where are your parents? And the kid just says, like, well, they dead. And at that moment I was like, shit. And that got to me, it's like, and sometimes, like, I'm covering this war, I'm trying to be staying, like, neutral. We have to think, like, big picture, but sometimes, like, those individual personal stories, it's like the tragedies, the incountable tragedies. Mariupol itself, by just itself, like, what is 60, 70,000? Like, there's just an estimate right now how many people got dead in Mariupol for no reason, for no fucking reason. They just bombed the city. And every single one of them just makes me, cry when I start thinking about this. So there's going to be a lot of psychological work after the war. But until the war is over, I am driven by anger and desire to get every single Russian out of the territory of Ukraine. And that's what's going to happen. Because it's easy to expect it, just because armed forces of Ukraine are as dedicated as some of the people that I've talked. Well, every single person that I've talked to from the armed forces is like, yeah, we're gonna get them out. Jeffrey Provost, greetings from the LSA, the enforcement channel. Hey, looking forward for your visit. Yes, what's your thoughts on Blinken interview on Crimea today? Was it on Munich? I've heard that there was like a Politico article about Blinken stating, and then the headline was misrepresentative because headline says that it would be like a red line, but then when I read like Blinken's speech in that article, what he actually said, that it's up to Ukraine what they will decide to do. So it was a nothing burger, essentially. It was like a media promotion. If there was something else said on the Munich conference or somewhere else, then I haven't caught up with it yet. Tim Tadeo, thanks for 50 bucks. Appreciate it. Really appreciate it. I'll make sure it goes to good use. Team Fletcher, coup issues with Moldova. I think that he was talking about. Okay, yeah. Well, I commented on coup in Moldova. Sure. Thanks for your do. Greetings from Canada. I hope to visit Canada at some point. Kalendan, do you think Poland will give Ukraine MiG-29s and F-16s and just open the door to jet coalition? Well, there was an interview with Andrzej Duda. Not Andrzej Duda, Morawiecki, the Prime Minister of Poland, and he clearly stated that the problem of aircraft, and I'm going to answer another question with this. The question was that, like, do you think that not delivery of jets is because the pilots is going to get too long to educate? So the issue is not the pilots. The issue of jets is that you take all the discussion that was about how hard it is to supply tanks, and then you multiply it by 10. Jets, especially something that F-16 that are quite notorious on being required on quite a good maintenance. So they require a lot of logistics work. They require a lot of like technical work. And a bigger problem, for example, for education on these jets is not even the pilots. The pilots that Ukraine has experienced, they only need to get to know the ways that the F-16 works. It can be quite fast. The problem is to get the whole infrastructure set up around these jets, and that's the big challenge. Every jet has like a huge trail behind it. So if Poland just says we're going to give you the jets, and then there is no support for that infrastructure from the allies because it was like a unilateral decision, then what can happen essentially is that these jets will not be sustainable asset for Ukraine. So they will just go into nothing, and then Poland will just piss off every single European country because they did something without agreeing with everyone. And this is not something that anyone wants. So it's going to be a long discussion and a political decisions until F-16s get to Ukraine. With MiG-29s, it's a different possibility. I believe the question will be whether or not US will be able to, for example, backfill something for Poland if it will give MiG-29s to Ukraine. JJ, $20, thanks. The whole invasion hasn't made sense from day one. It's like Russia is trying to kill their own people. Yeah, I mean, Putin doesn't like the funniest argument, is like JJ. Like when you think about this, it's like when you look at the number of like proper like men, like proper like life-worthy age men dying, and then people are making arguments that Putin decided to invade Ukraine to improve the demographics of Russia. That probably was like the most hilarious take I've ever heard. But Putin doesn't care about human lives. Like for him, Russians are like a tool. The guy is completely devoted of reality. He is, and recently I was listening to one of the journalists. I think his name was Ivan Yakovina from Ukraine, and he explained something about, or was it someone else? I don't remember. And he explained about Putin's bunker, and I'm going to talk about it just a second. Jabato, thanks for 10 euros. After Ukraine recovers its whole territory, how should we deal with that tumor in Europe called Kaliningrad? It's a permanent threat. Greetings from España. I will answer that in a second. I'll just take. So with Putin and the bunker and so on. So people said that in Moscow, people have been arrested, they have been shot at, they have also found accesses, to the underground. There is a system that's called Metro 2, which is essentially a metro system that connects government buildings. And then I started thinking, so Putin is also, together with the news that Putin is traveling a country in an armored train rather than flying, just because he's afraid of any kind of aerial interception of him in the air and whatnot. And that's another argument why there will never be a nuclear war. The guy is just so afraid for his life that he doesn't even fly. So it is clear that when you think about this, right? So imagine you're living life, you are traveling this luxurious train with a lot of these equipment, that you have always the food served to you every day. You arrive to the city where you have your own special bunker, which is a 14-story building down the mountain, where one of the levels of the building is just an actual lake that is built, or was it either a lake or an exit towards the lake from that underground building? So, and this all is yours. Like, so you are the key person, like, and every wish that you want can be fulfilled. Like, you want any woman, man, you want your enemy just to be humiliated. Any wish you want, you just say it to the person next to you, and it will get done in a matter of days. You don't understand the concept of money just because money is not even a resource you consider. You don't have any kind of connection or responsibility to the people in the country that you're living in. They are just there. Their background, like, it's like they are something that are quite funny sometimes. They're there for your entertainment. They are the dirt under your nails. And that's how Putin sees it, everything. That's why he enjoys spending time. For example, the same armor trade is actually from his friend Kovalchuk. And Kovalchuk, I would recommend you Googling up who the Kovalchuks are, and you will find that these guys are crazy. So they are like conspiracy level theories. So they have like this alternative history, alternative motives, putting all the strings together about the ancient times and ancient civilizations and how they influence. That's why the guy looks into these different things, because he, like, if I talk about Elon Musk and I say always Elon Musk has won capitalism, Putin has won everything, right? He has everything. He's so far beyond any kind of human level. That's why, like, any kind of interaction with him and the normal society is always so devoted of anything, just because for him, like, when he sees the world, like, for him is like the world should bow to his will. And then something as small and insignificant of Ukraine obviously can never resist him. So that's why for him it makes a complete sense that once their armies went to Ukraine and then they didn't capture Ukraine, that it was not because Ukraine resisted, because there is like some kind of drive of people. People have no drive. They're just dirt. For him, it's like, oh, it's obviously like some kind of great conspiracy, Western powers that are putting their effort and their undermining effort of my military. He thinks that the world is run exactly how his country is run. He thinks that the people in every country are as docile as the Russians. They think they are as deluded as the Russians. That's why he looks at the news and sees the propaganda, and then he understands this propaganda and says, oh yeah, that's how things are. And he thinks it's true because that's what he already believes, because he's so far devoted from reality. He does not even understand that the concepts that we're living in. So what is happening in Russia with this person is so far beyond any kind of reality. So that's why from day one, as you say, the invasion didn't make sense. It didn't make sense for you. For Putin, it's just things moving. He is untouchable. He's beyond that. That's why he can laugh it off, don't really care about him, don't really think about the future, and don't be afraid about his how do you say, reputation. He's a bully that was led to believe that he can get away with everything. He's gonna pay the price in the end, but to get to that point, there's still a lot of really good people needs to die, and that's the sad part. Just because he doesn't care about the Russians, and that's why any argument that he cares about anything just does not make any sense. All right, let me answer the question about the Kaliningrad, and then I'm gonna get to the other questions. I see Tanushi and Conard. Yeah. So with Kaliningrad, I don't think any, like, the problem how Kaliningrad happened is that no one wanted to take it after the Second World War. It didn't. Poland didn't want to take it. Lithuania didn't want to take it. No one wanted to take it. So, I mean, the smart thing here to do would be to give it to Czech Republic, just because they had a independence referendum in there. I am pretty sure. So the Kralevets region should belong to Czech Republic. That's what I think. That's my completely neutral opinion about it. Tanushi, is the context of the continuity of Russian state, Tsardom, how is Putin consideration of his subjects, the country is different from the Muscovite Empire past rulers? Like the Russian Empire that they're trying right now, and the whole idea is that the Russia is a continuation of the Byzantine Empire or the Roman Empire. That's how they were thinking about this. It's a mythos that has no binding in reality. So the continuity of the Russian state, it's devoted from any kind of reality objects. It's not even taking into account that, like, you know, that the Soviet Union was completely opposed to the Russian Empire. That's like those things were so against each other that they couldn't even be considered in the same line. But it doesn't matter, like, because in Putin's mind and like the perception of a lot of these like turbo patriots, for them this is like it's all continuation of the same big empire. They look at the map, they see, look how big Russia is, therefore we are the strong ones. That's the level of discussion for them. They say we've been always big, we've always dominated everyone, so this is how the world should be. That's how they think. They don't consider what's the continuation, what's the driving force behind it, what's the ideas behind it. It's all fluff. We were big, world was afraid of us, our nearest countries were our subject and just bowed their heads to us. This is how it should be. That's it. There's no more thoughts about like with different time, different world, different countries, different ideas. None of that matters. Conrad, with the new wave of mobilization, will Russia have anything at all which will to equip new conscripts? It seems like they're going to have to start sending them to war with sharpened broomsticks soon. It's a very valid fear, and very founded on. Like a lot of analysts saying, like, I don't believe they will. Like a lot of people are saying, I don't believe they will. But then again, do you think that this will be stopping Russians? So. I need to read this. Carnifexor, thanks for $200. Appreciate it so much. Should have added the question. Like, would be nice to answer a $200 question though. But appreciate it. I'll make sure to put it to good use. Putin ordered the downing of MH16. Well, I mean, he doesn't care about the specific Boeing MH16. He just said like, yes, send the book. Like, it's obviously been ordered and proposed by someone else. He just didn't care. Because he doesn't care about the consequence. There is no consequence for him. Remember, he has like not even get out of jail cards, like you're untouchable cards, so he doesn't care. If you need help with the t-shirts, I will be gladly help out to graphical designs. I already have a couple of ideas. You can reach out to me on email, but my idea was because my wife has connections to some of the Ukrainian artists, so I was hoping that we can get, you know, to support some kind of Ukrainian artists with those t-shirt designs and art and whatnot. But please reach out. Let's talk about this. Okay, I skipped a lot of questions because the page jumped for me, guys. Sorry. Kellen Dunn, I hate Western people media who promote Kremlin sound bites more than I hate Kremlin propagandists because the Western people know better. I think for me, it's like sometimes it makes funny, but then I always like, you know, slap myself on the cheeks because then I see people, you know, reacting to this in some kind of serious manner. And that's something that has been like a big shift in my worldview, because a lot of the things that for me, you know, like, oh my God, this is so obvious BS, you know, this is like so dumb. Who would ever believe it? And then I see like a huge rally of people that are advocating that the world is run by some secret government that eats children or some shit like that. Like, okay, whatever. So that's why reasonable activism and like putting like right ideas into our politicians' mailboxes, for example, that's why it matters. Because otherwise, it's the crazy ones that get to speak. All right. Rob, Access Work. Thanks for 200 kronos. If Putin's fantasy world, the war would be over in a week. Even if he lives in a fantasy world, he too has to ask himself, why is it taking so long? He asks. That's the point, that he asks. Like, but he is like not really. How do you say? He doesn't like. He fights the war. He thinks he's a big general. He likes this. Like, he's not devoted from uh, I don't even how, because like it's two concepts that are crashing on top of each other. Like some of the battles, for example, on the map, he was directing himself. We already know quite credible accounts on that. That's why, like for political, like for example, hold Kherson was a political order by Putin. So he definitely gets report. What I'm saying is there was a great video by Perun about Vranyo, the concept of Vranyo, about this idea that the lying on a chain of command just goes lying, and then he perceives the information that has delivered to him in his open folders is nothing that is really happening with reality. That's why whatever he thinks is happening on the ground is not really happening on the ground. That's why he says, I want Bakhmut captured by the 24th of February. And then the general next to him says, will do. And then he tries to capture it and killing thousands and thousands of soldiers. The Bakhmut didn't get captured. And then he says, okay, maybe let's put Prigozhin back again. So now Prigozhin, like, okay, now it's your turn to try. You know, he understands that certain things are happening. What I wanted to paint is the picture of like Putin, how he saw the world before Ukraine now slapping him in the face. But he understands some concepts. But look up the video of Perun about Vranyo. He really goes well in it. Really, really explains it nicely. Yeah, that's Putin mouthpiece. Yeah, really miss him. Putin made the same mistake as Saddam did. He thought that the West would just stand by and watch, just like they did in Georgia and Syria. Just my opinion. I mean, you're right. Yeah, yeah. 3 euros for Kralowitz, yes. Build a long corridor on the Ukraine side. Build 100 yards from Poland border and airstrip with a walk path for both. Don't think Russia would bomb. Yeah, that's the idea. That's idea has been discussed about that. Poland should be the base for the airfields, but there are nuances with it. Sandy Jane, I think the war will end in either 2023 or start of 2024. Yes, like in a sense. Everything is dependent on the supplies of weapons. Ukraine has the will, Ukraine has the manpower, Ukraine has the passion. The only thing that they're lacking is tools. And we in Europe and the US have been so slow to deliver anything. Like, dudes, it's been a year in the war, and only now we're delivering infantry fighting vehicles. Infantry fighting vehicles. And we've only decided on that. They're not in Ukraine yet. The tanks are still not even in Ukraine yet. They're still learning a year into the war. This should have been done like, you know, the second it was clear that Kyiv is not falling. It's like, yes, now we give you everything. Okay, it's not going to be a partisan war. It's going to be a full-blown war. So now you get shit. Nice. But we're being like, yeah, but you know, it's like maybe escalation. The Russia will respond. Oh, hear that. Flip-flop, thousands of Ukrainians die. So do I hope that the war will end by 2023? Yes. But to do that, resources are needed. General Milley stated that it's possible. It's possible. It's going to be hard. But then again, nothing is easy in a war like this. Carson Larimore, I like a straightforward, no-nonsense evaluations. Keep up the good work. What's your speculation of Putler's speech on February 21? Yada, yada, Western powers wants destruction of Russia. Yada, yada, we need to come together. Yada, yada. They want to destroy Russia, yada, yada. We will show them how wrong they are. And then either mobilization or whatnot. I want these things done, and I will make sure that it's due. Slava Russia. Something like this. Brian Libek, tack för din stora arbete med denna Ukraina-matters. Det är bara välkommen för mig. Är det välkommen? Nej, välkommen, it's like, never mind. Languages are mixed. Thanks so much for 100 kronos. I will try to continue working. I will be working. I will continue doing this until the end of the war. It does nothing else matters for me. Like this channel matters. That's why like I'm okay with like not sleeping sometime, cutting some of the time off like that I was to spend with some of my friends or whatnot, because this thing matters, because Ukraine matters. Ingboy, sorry for a simple question, but I must ask, Ukraine matters means that Ukraine is important, or you deal with the stuff happening in Ukraine? Both, both. It's not a stupid question. It's fine. It's a good question. That's hence the name. It's like it's because of the double ideas. Mr. E30, thanks for £5. Georgie, what do you think will happen to the Western YouTube propagandists that live in Russia working for RT when Ukraine defeats Russia? Oh, I think it's going to be a long laundry list. Ukraine is already working with Mossad. So I am pretty sure that something like Mossad will appear on the Ukrainian side, and they will hunt every single motherfucker that caused this, that brought death and destruction on Ukraine. And they will hunt them down and prosecute them as it was stated by the law. Make sure that they face justice. So I'm expecting something like this. Bach 9681. Now it will be time for Moldova, Georgia, or Japan to open second front. Yeah, I mean, like, what was it? Who said it? Was it either General Milley or was it the? No, it was a UK defense minister. I forgot the name, unfortunately. He said that 97% of the Russian military is in Ukraine. 97%. We need to understand that whatever Russia is doing, like, they are all in. There is no falling back. Like, they are using forces that they would need otherwise to defend themselves. But just because they know that NATO won't attack, just because they know that everyone else won't attack, they're like, yes, sure. So that's why we can dedicate 97% of our military. 97% outside of your own country's territory. That is nuts. That is beyond me. I already answered about Putin's address. Sure. Sorry if you have explained, but I might ask. Sorry, boy. I read there was just a lot of the, how do you say, super chats. So people have told me that I need to read a lot more super chats, because otherwise I miss it, because I read people from the chats and so on. Army of Drones, yeah, that would be great impact. We'll see what we do. We'll find out something really nice, something that would be, make you proud for wearing it. I don't want this just to be like merch for merch's sake. I mean, it's interesting, but I want you to feel proud that you did something. That, like, yes, that Ukraine definitely matters. Flat earthers exist. Nothing surprised me. Yeah. I think you mean devoid instead of devoted. Yeah, probably. Don't ever think. Like, my English is pretty poor sometimes, so don't worry. Ali, if you have a question for Georgie's... okay. Sorry. Tone, du gör en really good job, Georgis. Thank you. Tosun Abi, why do you think Jaga Jaga videos stopped? They were quite annoying if Russia and for fun of us. This guy is okay. He's okay. I've listened to this video today. He says very, very hard battles right now at the north of Bakhmut. Extremely hard. He says, like, no BS this video. Like, basically his words were, no BS this video. The battles on the north of Bakhmut, really hard. There's been like 3 days non-stop combat, he says. And like, you look at the guy, and like, the guy definitely looks like he hasn't slept for 3 days. So they have extremely tough time right now at the north of Bakhmut. And his unit is participating. And he so on. He's obviously running the, the aerial surveillance. So I'm pretty sure he was like commanding and like not really worrying too much about recording videos for the internet. Bob Chapman, do you think that when the war ends, the Ukraine should just cut off the gangrenous areas of Donbas, build a big fence, and get on with making a better and successful Ukraine? No, it's like, what? When the war ends, Donbas is going to be part of Ukraine. It's like, There is no separate Donbas. It's all Ukraine. There is no separate Crimea. It's all Ukraine. Nothing is going to be cut out. Like whatever narratives being said that it's gangrenous or poisonous region or like people there are against Ukraine is a complete Kremlin propaganda. So your argument, Bob, it builds on the foundation that there was a conflict. There wasn't. You can find like maybe somewhere like Google like 2013 Donetsk March or something, and then you will find like a sea of Ukrainian flags and people celebrating. That was like a supposedly year before the separation started. There was no conflict. Never was. Like right now, the people say like, oh, language conflict. Yeah, I mean, like the biggest mind blown about this, I already told you, is that more than half of the Azov regiment or Azov battalion, the supposed Nazi, the ultimate anti-Russian Nazi group, is Russian speaking. Kellendan, do you think China is helping Russia in the background, and in what ways? Non-military. China is supplying Russians with non-military assets, foods, I believe maybe clothing and stuff like that. So they are not supplying Russia with essentially the direct military aids. How long will the muddy season last? Until the end of April. Probably mid-May. Ben Wallace, yes, thank you. Yes, Ben Wallace said about 97% of Russian military in Ukraine. Mika Rasaka, I'm hoping as well that they will hunt everyone who were command and decision loop and invasion were decided. Correct. Because it's not just Putin. As much as the Russian propaganda wants you to believe that it's just Putin, and it's like, yes, Russian people are so innocent. No, they're not. There are plenty of people that are guilty. It's not a one man's attack. How much longer do we have to wait for the southern offensive to Melitopol? It depends. Right now, the preparations are for essentially May, June. Mikhail Moskalyunets. Again, my name was not said. I thought I said it already a couple of times on the stream. So, Mikhail Moskalyunets. Do you think Ukraine will, Sandy, do you think Ukraine will be able to hold Bakhmut or not? Even if they have a secondary line of defense, it's still nice to shoot down the amount of Russians at the same time. I think they will defend it while it makes sense. Like, in my perspective, Bakhmut paid 10 times over whatever it's supposed to do. If you go back 7 months ago, then Bakhmut was not even mentioned as a potential problem for the Russians. It was like more about like, well, how do we stop the Russians like around Sloviansk, Kramatorsk? Right now, Bakhmut became the unbreakable point for the Russians. Ukrainians are posing extremely hard defense for the against the Russians, and Russians are losing a lot of resources here. But obviously, I believe that it would be a lot more favorable for Ukrainians to defend on some other positions. But that's not what Ukrainian military command thinks, and who am I to suggest that I know better than Ukrainian command? Seems 2023 will be a replacement of worn-out Soviet-era system with US NATO systems. Yes, wondering at that point Ukraine will be half Soviet-era and half NATO systems. Fear is boring. Right now it's about 30-40% of US NATO systems. So I wouldn't say that long. Mostly because Soviet systems in Ukraine, they wear out. They get worn out. Whereas Russians get supplied, whereas Ukrainians get supplied with the US NATO standards. Freestyler, why Russians don't use their regular army conscripts? They do use, just not in the battles. It's a very sensitive subject in Russia. Very, very sensitive. UN named agency undisclosed location. We already working with Ukraine intel community. Slava Ukraine. Nice. Good to hear. Maria, you are right. The injustice of victims will not be forgotten. Finns are sending messages to Ruskies. Design my rocket a lot. Yeah. Oh yeah. I've seen those pictures. Yeah. Nice. We have a new member. Pickles. Welcome. Welcome. Oh, Zelensky. Wow. Have you seen the documentary The Soviet Story? If so, what parallels does it draw to regular what UAE faces today? I haven't seen the documentary, so I don't know what it talks about. If you can describe me shortly what it speaks about, I can comment, but I haven't seen it. Darren Corrigan, Japanese researcher showed satellite imagery of empty airfields that were full before something is up. Yeah. Well, we've heard this. Like I already commented that if Russia will decide to lose aviation en masse, it will be a problem for Ukraine. Don't get me wrong. Like when I said that's like the planes are going to get shut down, but it's going to cause severe problems for the Russians. The biggest problem that Russia is having is the lack of combat ready pilots. They really lost the elite of their elite during the first months of offense. And right now, even if they have taught some pilots something, they are not combat capable to the extent of how many they are. Russia has a lot more planes than it has pilots. So once they're gonna get started shut down, then it's gonna be a very nasty maybe month or so. But after that month, the number of air assets that Russia has lost will be incredible. So I treat it as a hybrid tactic until I see it happen. What will be Russia's next stupid strategic move? More Mobics? More Mobics for sure. That's I mean, it's not even actually stupid. Like more Mobics is the only thing that Russia can do if they want to do this war for longer, because otherwise they just get grind down and destroyed. F. Merz, there was no conflict in Ukraine until Russia started one. Yes, exactly. Ken Router, I like Ukraine Matters on the t-shirt and it needs a chest pocket. That's where I carry my phone when I exercise. We'll consider that. Grex's one, winning back Crimea and Donetsk is going to be awkward for a lot of local. How to reintegrate the regions after 8 years of Russian occupation. Yeah, it's going to be a challenge, but that's the only way forward. So they should consider now. I'm more interested how to make sure that people that, for example, captured there's going to be a lot of questions. Like, for example, people that took over the apartments of the people that fled the Russian occupation back then, what to do and how to prosecute the people that tortured Ukrainians in that area. There's going to be a lot of reasons, but that's the only way how it's going to happen. So it's going to be a question for everyone to solve. John Jason, Western governments goes for official consent before anything is sent to Ukraine. This is so dumb because it gives Russia a heads up in advance on what is coming. On one side, I agree with you, and I would wish that the West would just faster. It's just I'm glad that everyone is on board. What I'm not glad about is that how long them took them to get on board. I think it was quite obvious that Putin is not a good guy for pretty much everyone. So, but we still needed to play this tap dance with, oh, maybe let's find a negotiation or an off-ramp until we find it's like, yeah, probably this genocide guy, the guy that makes genocide on the European continent shouldn't probably be negotiated with. Took a while. Darren Johnson, hi Georgie, how long do you think it will be before the next newly trained Ukrainian soldiers and their new equipment will be on the front lines? Just right now, as we speak, Ukraine is forming about 20 assault brigades, which is about 60,000 people. A lot of these brigades are formed from the units that were trained during the previous year in Europe. So probably by next offensive, we'll see them, hopefully. Jabata, let's not forget about Transnistria either. How Russians get supplied there. They're landlocked and they're neither fights allowed nor seaports. Yeah. They don't really have a lot of stuff to do. The problem is that Moldovan military is even smaller than what they have in Transnistria. So Moldova can do it themselves, but they also don't have the balls to ask Ukraine for help. And until they do, it's going to stay a problem. But I'm hoping Transnistria will get resolved once Ukraine finishes the job in Donbas and Crimea. China Navy drill with Russia in South Africa is worrying. Why? Dr. Canada, we have robot technology, right? Shouldn't Elon or whoever should be helping Ukraine with combat robots? I mean, Elon helping Ukraine? What? Elon already posed that he's like completely deluded. Like Elon doesn't care. Like he cares about buying companies and fucking everyone's lives up because he can. Do you think, Sandy? Do you think Russia will still be able to take the remainder of Donbas with the new mobilized? Hmm. No, 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 no. Definitely not. They can come to Kramatorsk, Sloviansk, but then again, I've been proving wrong. Like, look at the Vuhledar. Look at Vuhledar. Look what happened in Vuhledar. And number of Vuhledars like these before they even reach Sloviansk and Kramatorsk are extensive. So, no, definitely not. Ingboy, what systems is that promised to Ukraine would be the most beneficial to Ukraine if gotten right now? Tanks, AFVs, gliding bombs, anything. What is missing is the scale. We are talking systems but the important thing is what Ben Hodges always says: capabilities. It's not the system that are needed, it's what's needed are the capabilities. So Ukraine needs long range strike capabilities, so any missiles, aircraft, more HIMARS, anything that does that. So capabilities. Then Ukraine needs assault capabilities like tanks, IFVs, anything that does that should be delivered. The more capabilities Ukraine has, the more it can strike against Russia. So a lot more shit is better than new and shiny stuff. That's why, for example, 180 Leopard 1 tanks is better than 14 Leopard 2 tanks at this stage. So Ukraine just needs a lot of stuff. Everything it needs. The people, have you heard anything about Russia blocking YouTube inside Russia? ISV reported it could happen in their daily report 3 days ago. I've heard this rumors that Russia is going to block YouTube or not YouTube, but like internet, YouTube, whatever, for the last year. So maybe. Tanya, did you laugh as much as me when it came out about Mr. Propaganda gay son in London? I mean, yeah, but I don't shame people for being gay. Do I shame him for being the son of the propagandists? Yes. So, Solovyov, I mean, for me, it's not news just because I've seen them all before, right? I've seen them get into this loop of Russian propaganda. You know, there was this guy in the Russian propagandists, for example, that was trying to encourage essentially drowning of Ukrainian children in rivers. And that guy, the propagandist, he is actually an open gay himself. So, which is an oxymoron in Russia, saying is like, well, I support the Russian anti-gay regime, whereas also I am an open gay myself. So it's Russian propaganda is weird. They have either sold their souls to devil, or they just believe honestly and don't care about else. To be honest, don't really care. What I want, what I care about, and when I'm going to be laughing the most, is when when Solovyov is going to get caught by trying to hide or pretend that he's either a woman or someone he's not, and then he would be put on the court bench. That would be the best joke for me. China Navy drill with Russia in South Africa is worrying. Why? Darren Corrigan, I hope they lose them all. Yes. Boxers or briefs? What do you like? Tacos and mangas? Thanks. Ooh, the analysts, $2. Wow, that's a strong analytical question right there. I think any pants that you think would be relevant should be sent to Ukraine. Ukrainians should wear boxers and briefs. They do require clothes. So support Ukraine, support the armed forces of Ukraine. Send tacos, send mangoes, send boxers, send briefs, anything to support Ukraine. Mikhail Moskalyunets, U.S. Air Force Navy, something like 160 hours per year flight time. The motor have like 40 per year. Yes, plus they didn't allow to use live ammunition for a lot of those flights. So they were just like, flying a plane. It wasn't like a combat, actual battle or whatnot. Divine, I'm all for Ukraine. I helped as many Ukrainian refugees as I could. I'm from neighboring country, but okay. How do you see the world stage if Russia actually wins the war? Russia will not win the war. It's like it's a. How do you see? How do you act if you meet a leprechaun? It's like, well, there are. I can discuss it, but it doesn't change that there are no leprechauns. So it's a nice things, but there is no way that Russia is winning this war. So I don't even think how to entertain this. Tosanabe, how do soldiers survive in cold and trenches? How do they sleep during 3 days nonstop fighting? How do they get supplied? Can you give me info on logistics, general around Bakhmut? Okay, so if you want to know how things are getting from backlines to front lines, watch Ukraine TBIC channel. Brandon is a medic, but he also gets supplies to the front lines. That's how supplies get from one part to another. Well, he obviously deals with small amounts of supplies, but the principle is the same. Stuff gets loaded on the truck, then it gets sent to Bakhmut. That's how it, and then the truck hopes that it will not get shot by the way there. Soldiers survive in the trenches because they have warm uniforms that were provided by Ukrainian allies. The donations that we've been giving them and supplies that they have been giving them are helping. The fact that we are able to then provide additional socks and warm clothes for them not to get too cold, that allows them to survive this. The dedication and resilience to elements and the personal motivation is what keeps them alive. And they sleep, they have their, not really yoga mats, but they have their essentially tourist mats that protect them from the probably the least possible thing around the cold, and they just sleep in trenches. When they get the better chance, they're able to sleep inside of some kind of buildings or basements, maybe on some wooden pallets. That's kind of luxurious. So throwing a couple of pallets, wooden pallets, and then putting a tourist mat on top of it is luxury sleeping. That's how Ukrainians survive in around Bakhmut. Kellen Dunn, is there still an energy issue in Ukraine with blackouts? Has most substation been fixed? There are still blackouts, there are still some issues, but things are getting better. There is already like nuclear power has been restored in Ukraine, so things are going better and better. Grant P, why don't we hear more about Zaluzhny? Because why would we? He's a general. He's not there to entertain you or me or anyone else. He's there to do a very specific job. Kill the fucking Russians, as many of them as it takes to secure the independence of Ukraine. He doesn't have time to entertain us or whatnot. He has me for that. Well, not me. Maybe I'm not getting paid, unfortunately, by Ukrainian military, but I'm getting supplied by you guys. Thanks for that. Bob Chapman, I agree Mr. Musk is a weirdo. He should curtain his weirdness in running companies and dating actresses. Yes. The problem comes when he brings his weirdness to important stuff like Starlink for armed forces of Ukraine. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, it's always the hardest when a person that says I'm gonna help you then flip-flops. You know, it's like it's called something. I'm not sure how it's called in US, but from where I'm from, it's called a dick move. So that's my assessment of the Starlink situation. Iki, fair play to your tonight streams go max and quarter of the drone money. Slava Ukraine, nice. Patron's patron. NATO has shared intel with why haven't all countries given a get out now order to all citizens? NATO has shared intel why haven't all countries given a get out now order to all citizens? I don't know. That requires each country to assess their own situation. Ban 9681. Could you speak to the repurposing of 300 billion in Russian foreign currency reserves? Ukraine and the West could use the money now. Yeah, the money should have been given to Ukraine from the get-go. Ukraine needs the money. It would just help Ukraine to not worry about budget deficit for a while, essentially giving Ukraine a war chest. which Russia has, for example. So I think that this should be repurposed. But that's my opinion. There's obviously legal problems with that. And yeah, political. Lafa, why does Ukraine use an expensive, limited resource to launch unguided missiles on the front lines? Ukraine is using everything that they have to launch everything that they have. Helicopters can fly, they can shoot, so they will fly and shoot. So that's the answer. Hans Eriksson, welcome to Sun Javelin. Appreciate it. Top-notch mods we have. That is true. Big thanks to the mods. Please give a hand to our mod team, especially Ali. Really helping me out. Like sometimes I get like some notification about some guy saying, it's like, when are you gonna go to the front lines or some shit like that? It's like, you talk big, you're big mouth, but it's like, why don't I see you in the uniform, soldier? And I was like, dude, like, I'm a fat guy from Denmark. What do you expect? Funny. And then, yeah, and then they disappear. Like magic. Thanks, Ali. When will you see Russians reach Lisbon? Good point. I'm not sure. I think when if the Russians reach, I know. Thanks. Good joke. Stefan Sell, is Ukrainian army capable of using the incoming Western tanks in a combined arms approach? I don't see them using T-72s, T-80s that way, but they should adopt those tactics. The tactics have been adopted. Look up videos from Kherson offensive. Darren Corrigan, 42 Gripens would have solved the problem with the EU long-range missiles. Yes. Ukraine TBIC, yes, please. See Brandon's channel. Really good. Follow Brandon. He's amazing. William S. The West also needs to give Ukraine a navy to go with the UK missiles to blow away Russian Black Sea fleets. This will also help prevent missiles attacks on civilians. Slava Ukraine. Sure. But I don't think the navy right now is a priority. Lisa, love to Ukraine matters. Love to Lisa, please. It wasn't me. Ukraine matters. Is there a list of potential sponsors for the next Olympics anywhere, so we can tell them that we will never ever buy their products again if they allow Russia to join? Ooh, it's a tough question. You know, it's like we in the West, we put morals. We on one side, like we have double speak on ourselves. We have like a lot of high moral speech and says like, well, we all for the high morals here in the West. But then we say is like, well, why don't you, for example, don't buy the produce from the producers that support Ukraine? And then people said like, well, yeah, but that's like, you know, problematic. I need to bother with it. And it's like to find out if the company supports the war in Ukraine. Do they supply Russian military with foods? You know, like, for example, a recent story with Aushan. So we really do a lot of talking and a lot of declaration of intent. What we lack is actually following up on that every day. And that is what is missing. That is the question for us. We need to hear the talks, we need to hear the speeches, but as a lot of people said to me, words are cheap and what we need is actions. And I agree with them. Nicholas Weisheit, welcome to St. Javelin. Nice to see you here. Vuklidar is a Tucson Waterloo, Slava Ukraini. Agree. All right. Tony Odinson, we have seen some cool trenches as well, though, with saunas and so on. Yeah, but it's a situation, not the majority, unfortunately. Havlan Tough. Why haven't we seen Ukraine use their Hrim 2 missiles? Well, it's a long-range strategic how do you say, ballistic missile launcher. So I don't think that it would be smart to show where is it firing from. So, and it was also prototype mostly. It's not yet in full production. So right now there are issues with them. I've heard Taras Chmut, one of the kind of really good analysts from Ukraine, talking about it. And he says that there's a lot of problem of putting this into serial production right now. We call it two-faced. Thanks. Yeah, yeah. Ayu Gearsing, if Ukraine already won the war, the public will lose interest. That's the dilemma. What? Ukraine won the war in a strategic sense. So Russia can never achieve the strategic objectives they need to win the war. Ukraine has not won the war in a lot of the other aspects. Like complete winning the war is essentially Russia is not a threat to Ukraine and they're not posing any threat. Ukraine is very far from that. Like Russia still have resources, significant resources, to cause damage to Ukraine. And that thing, the prevention of that damage is what Ukraine is doing right now. They are pushing the Russians out, depleting them of resources or capabilities to harm Ukrainian civilian population, cities, and whatnot. This process is ongoing, and the Western allies supply the necessary tools to make sure that that process is successful. Lechim Nark, why do top Russian oil chefs and other top Russian officials keep jumping out of windows to their deaths? Honestly, you can't make this stuff up. The fascism writes itself. I mean, yeah, I mean, like, I think Russia is experiencing a severe lack of a proper window security engineers, especially for some of the top class political spheres buildings. So could definitely use maybe a career there. Kellen Dunn, Elon is just a greedy dick who only cares about Elon. His companies spend $0 on marketing, so he says stupid things to drum up the media attention for his companies. Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, pretty much. So like he's a hype machine, and like he is making hype of whatever. So that's why I'm like, every time I talk about him is more essential clout and like I'm doing him a favor by talking about him essentially. That's why I don't really care. I'd rather talk about Ukraine. We are, guys, 1,726 people here, which is really amazing. I really want to say thanks for you for liking this video, putting a subscribe to this, sharing this on your social medias, because this will allow, essentially, if YouTube sees that you are, during the video, or sharing it or liking it or doing whatever, even if, like, you know, no one reads your media, like for a long time, this happened to me. And I didn't ever share videos when I watched them. But then it was recently, now for me, understood that's like, if people do this, then apparently then YouTube thinks, oh, this channel or video is popular, that we should promote it. So freaking algorithm is just complete nonsense. I don't understand it. But if you do this, big thanks. Really appreciate it. It actually matters a lot. Divine. Few people hate Russians more than us Romanians. We've divided. I'm as a Latvian, I can put competition to that. Us Romanians. We've been under communism for a long time. I pray to God they don't win, but we all know the war is unpredictable. Pray to God they don't. They won't, so don't worry about it. Aslan gifted Ukraine 10 Ukraine Matters memberships. Yes, thank you so much. I mean, to put some context on that, it's like, if we continue trusting the armed forces of Ukraine, and more importantly, if we continue pressuring our politicians and supporting Ukraine and doing this stuff, then Ukrainians will win, and they will never allow Russia to get in a position to threaten us again. Ever. Because this needs to happen. This needs to happen. Russians never reconciled about their atrocities that they brought to all of the countries in Eastern Europe past Second World War. And because they won against Nazism, they got like a get out of jail free card to get away with a lot of really horrible stuff. And they need to finally realize that it was nice. And Ukrainians are saying, we can do it. So it's only our job, everyone else, to support Ukrainians with that effort. Carney Fox, every supporter and propagandist by definition is a dick move. I mean, like, it's not the same. Like, dick move for me is like if someone says that they will give you a chocolate and then don't give you the chocolate, or take it away next moment. Why do top Russian? Okay, I already read that. Uh, Russians suffering in Ukraine. Russia's suffering in Ukraine. Would all those landmines affect the Ukrainian offensives as they did against the Russians at Vuhledar? Yes. You mean like Ukrainian mines or Russian mines? If Ukrainian mines, they know where the mines are. They know where the minefields are. If it's the Russian mines, well, yes, they will affect. So that's why there usually also is some kind of plan how to demine certain areas. That's a part of the combined arms efforts. Bud Webster, strangle that little prick, Dweeb Union. I don't know. I've heard people reference Dweeb Union. Dweeb Union. I watch some of their content. It's like this is not something that is worth paying a lot of attention to. So I don't have any strong feelings about it. Elon doesn't say Mixa. Okay, yeah. Yes. Okay, there we go. Bob Chapman, are you looking forward to Putin unleashing his masked air offensive? That should be a laugh. Yeah. The best thing, the best scenario is like if Russians start offensive from the north and also the air offensive. That would be excellent. Like just kill all the ground troops and also the air assets as well at the same time. Perfect. Do you think Ukraine will be let in the EU? Yeah, for sure. Once the war ends, absolutely. Have you watched Andrew Mercado on YouTube, Mercado Media, Ukraine war coverage? I haven't watched it. My bad. I've been quite in a loop of trying to recent news and so on, but Ellie has been pretty much to me saying, it's like, well, you need to watch Andrew Mercado. I was like, yeah, I should. I really should. Ukraine matters. What is keeping your critics? I don't see them jumping over straws. Money talks, BS walks. Yeah. Lafa, sorry, that's not a good answer. The logic says that a soldier should jump out of a trench and throw a rock if his gun jams. Using helicopters for non-critical missions indicates. Is that the question, like the one that why how Ukrainians sleep in the trenches, or was it the one that's like the I think it was the one that's like why is Ukraine using helicopters? That logic says that soldier should jump out of a trench and throw a rock if his gun jams, using helicopters for non-critical mission case. Yes, Ukrainians, like that's every war. If your weapon is not working and the enemy is right there in front of you, you fight with your fists, you use your knife, you use everything. That's war. People kill each other. Dawson Abbey, US soldiers were telling that Wagnerites don't fall quick enough when get shot and may be injected with some drugs. I've heard the drugs for both sides saying. I believe that human body is sometimes a lot more resilient to a lot of things. So far, I have not seen any specific confirmation, but I've seen Russians saying that they were shooting at Ukrainians and Ukrainians just continued walking. I've heard Ukrainians talking about Russians and Wagnerites that they just continue walking when they're being shot at. And I have not seen any confirmation that any drug substances are being used. It's like, how do they get supplied? Like, what do they have, like their special delivery of drug supplies or whatnot? Like, Russia cannot afford to buy proper medicine packs, and now they're supposed to supply some combat enhancing drugs to their forces. What are we talking here? So, for me, this is like a battlefield legend. Navisino, once Ukraine will have improved all Russians on its land, do you imagine a new Iron Curtain between the two countries? Yes. How will Ukraine be safe again? Iron Curtain, like proper Iron Curtain, like wall, air defense, everything, like everything. NATO membership. First and foremost, NATO membership and security guarantees. There's been a mention of the news of buildup of aircraft. As I say, like for me right now, sounds pretty. Eh. I haven't seen pictures that indicate this. I have seen people talking about this. And if it's another plan of Russia to use aircraft, then it's a dumb plan. So I'm expecting a lot of aircraft to be shot if that will happen. Lafa, okay, so we're continuing the helicopter discussion. Indicates that they have access in air resources and ability to effectively utilize their resources. What? No, if they use helicopters, they're utilizing their resources. Utilization of resources literally means that it's utilization of resources. If they're not using helicopters to just fly over the front lines and close air support from the close combat areas, that just means that Russians have air defenses also, and those air defenses are preventing Ukrainian air assets to be close supporting their troops on the battlefield because they're afraid to be shut down. So that's why they're firing from afar. It's called what is it called? Like I know the Russian and Ukrainian term is kabririvanie, but I don't know the English term for it. It's like they just fly up, they fire the rockets in a ballistic trajectory, and then they just fly away. Not sure about the discussion. How are Ukrainian FPV drones doing on the battlefields? Pretty good, really, really good. They're showing themselves to be really. Elon doesn't mix a Mihai doesn't mix a okay. How fast would the war end if the Supreme Orc was taken out? I think it might end, it might not end, but definitely it would decrease the Russian ability to command because Putin's regime is personalistic. He has built regime around himself. And while some of the parties may come right away to command, for example, Russian military and continue the operation, the internal disruption will be so significant that Russian state would fall into anarchy quite fast. And obviously, when your internal anarchy, when you have internal anarchy, then wars of conquest are not that well fought. Sandy, goodbye, Georgie. I've got to leave. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it. Bu says he doesn't watch other analysts because it spoils his own analysis. I mean, yes, but for example, for me, it's a problem because I don't have that much time. QR. The issue of Russian participation at the 2024 Olympics is quite simple solution. The IOC can say whether they want as long as Schengen countries refuse to give Russia the visas. I mean that's a fair statement. Thanks for 500 korunas. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not giving visas to Russians. Vince Hearn, if orcs are so homophobic, why is so much evidence of orc on orc recreation within the ranks? It's a whole thing. It's a weird stuff. They it's like, for example, a lot of homophobia is coming from the Russian, like their prison culture. Yet in their same prison culture, like there is a punishment of fucking someone in the ass. I'm sorry for putting it like this. It's really bizarre, really bizarre. It's a weird thing for Russian. It's not the same homophobia that a lot of us have in the Western countries. It's a completely different kind of homophobia. It's so weird. Doesn't make any sense. Migaraska, adrenaline does wonders for physical stamina for a while. Yeah, exactly. Adrenaline. Yeah, yeah. Adrenaline is a very potent. The RAM mines Ukraine is using self-destruct on a schedule. Oh, if they do, that would be nice. If you have a question, yeah. Okay. Joshua Martin, you've point out you've your thoughts on Ukraine putting together a special ops assassin window technical crew just for Putin. It's very problematic. Putin is one of the best defended assets in Russia. Like he has like a small army defending him. So getting through that, like it's called FSO. It's a federal security, like It's like Federal Security Service, like security service, something like this. So as FSO, you can look it up. They have like crazy number of people, like 50,000 or something, that's just protecting Putin. It's incredible just how afraid he is for his life. I have seen people walk 75 meters with one in his heart. People can do strange things. Yeah, Grizzly, thanks. Yeah, it's very interesting. Palace guards. Yeah, yeah. Wow, I read all the questions. Woo, you guys have no more questions. Perfect. Well, that was great. Never thought I will do this in every other stream because people always write so many questions that it's always like my stream goes forever because I don't know where to stop because I always don't know which questions to end. And I roll, scroll, and there is no more questions. Good. Reverend Gray, I had the pleasure to be Op Unifier in 2021 for 6 months. Really looking forward to going back to Ukraine this year. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for your hard work, man. Or woman. I'm sorry, I cannot tell by the nickname. It was me. Thank you so much for all your time and effort. We love you. I love you guys. I say it in every video. If you haven't noticed, every single video I say big thanks because I love you guys. Because the fact that you're supporting me, the fact that you're supporting other pro-Ukraine channels matters significantly. It's incredibly important that we all stay together and keep this up the top. So big thanks. Yes, have to go. Stay in tune. Yes, okay. Then let's wrap it up here, guys. I will release video tomorrow, so we're gonna talk more about the situation on the battlefield tomorrow. Talk Bakhmut and how bad or good the situation is there. I think it's good time, good record. Thank you so much. Thank the mods. I appreciate it. Thanks Ali, Lisa, and everyone else. We will see each other quite soon. Slava Ukraine, you guys. I love you, and I'll see you guys next time. One more thing, guys, before we go. Oh my God, I'm gonna be so dead. Okay, because Ali has really asked me. Asked me. I need to promote some specific YouTuber. So Ali has really asked me that I give a shout out to any Butler. I think it was. Give me a second. Fanny Butler. So I will post a link. So once you're done with this stream here, please come visit her channel, give her some love. There we go. And then see if this is something you would like. So there we go. I did a shout out. Please, Ellie, no more shaming me for that I forget something. So please check out her channel. I believe she's just a starter. She had some interview with Starsky. So she's pretty nice. So please, it's Fanny Butler, not Fanny Butler. What? Fanny Butler, yes. Not Fanny Butter. No, not Fanny Butter. It's Fanny Butler. Please check her out. And I love you all, guys, for sure. See you guys next time.